Basically, mental rehearsal is practicing skills and game situations with your mind in a quiet environment. Skills that are practiced with your mind, vividly, like high-definition movies, create neural pathways as if you're actually physically practicing the skill. So practicing mentally can accomplish some great things if you can't get out on the ice and physically practice the skills you want. So in the landmark study that was done on the mental importance of training, what they determined was that physical practice can create great growth in your game. Mental practice has the equal amount of growth in your game. Combining them both is optimal. The big experiment that revealed all of this involved basketball free throws. And in this university study, what they did was they took a bunch of groups of kids and brought them in and worked on taking free throws. They measured what they could do percentage-wise, success and failure. They took one group and all they did for 6 months was go out and practice every day, physically practicing. And they took a second group that exclusively just practiced their free throws in their mind using skill rehearsal sessions in a very controlled environment. The third group practiced both physically half the time and mentally half the time. And then there was a fourth group, which was a control group. When they brought all this data together and distilled it all down, the one thing they found is that people that practiced skill physically had the exact same improvement in their skills when they remeasured later as if they just practiced mentally alone without even touching a basketball. But overall, the best results, the biggest growth, the biggest gains were when you combine physical development of a skill combined with an equal amount of mental development of a skill. So for you, I think the healthy balance is work the skill equally as you would in the mind, practicing it live. Mental rehearsal can fix any skill, any save selection, any game situation you could potentially face. World is your oyster. Anything you can imagine in vivid, high definition during your mental rehearsal sessions can be fixed. Anything from a poke check, a 16-inch to the blocker, playing a 2-on-1, playing a breakaway. Mental rehearsal can really allow you to drill down into your technique and your tactical approach and really improve your game away from the rink. Can it work on weaknesses as well as strengths? Of course. For instance, if you've got a weakness 16-inch to the blocker side, you don't seal pucks in your glove, you get consistently beat on point shots, shots through traffic, those are all things that are weaknesses that can be fixed by working on them away from the rink in a proper mental rehearsal environment. Now, as far as your strengths go, of course, you can continue to refine and harp on your strength like you would on the ice. So for instance, if you've got a great glove hand, that doesn't mean you don't practice it on the ice anymore. Of course, you're going to keep using it on the ice and practicing it. The same thing applies off the ice. You should be doing mental rehearsal sessions on a regular basis for all of your strengths as well as your weaknesses. How can mental rehearsal help with my game situation and my reads? If you take, for instance, pretty much every game situation you could potentially face and write them down, it's important to go through and detail exactly the correct approach to have in each of those situations. So for instance, in a 2-on-1, you've got the puck carrier, you've got the passer, you've got your defenseman. Each guy has their own roles, their own responsibilities, and the guy carrying the puck can do several things. He can shoot, he can carry the puck in close to you, or he can backdoor pass you. So as a goaltender, if you want to mentally rehearse game situations, what you have to do is know the situation, all the potential outcomes, all the potential options, and how you should play it. And then when you get into a mental rehearsal session, you're going to walk through in detail each of those options and visualize yourself stopping those options. So what are the actual steps in a skill rehearsal session? Number one, you got to find a quiet room away from everybody else. It should be dark. You should be sitting in a chair, in a concentration position, not laying down, you may fall asleep, and basically in the darkened, quiet, private room, what you're going to do is walk through in your mind the given situation you're working on. So for example, if we're talking about 16-inch to the blocker side causing you problems, you're going to sit in that chair, quiet room, lights off, no music, no TV, and you're going to visualize, say, a teammate shooting pucks 16 inches off the ice from the high slot, 75%ers, so you can react, get the proper technique, get the blocker down, make that save. And then in your mind, in these vivid HD movies, you can actually increase the speed of the shot in your mind and visualize. You don't need to be kicking your arm out or moving your pad in that direction, but mentally, vividly imagine, using all your senses, what that 16-inch save looks like with your blocker. Gradually speed it up, and now you've got that mastered from a static point of view. Have a pass involved, and in your mind, create a backdoor pass to a guy who one times at 16 inches to the blocker, and visualize repetitively making that save, turning your head into the puck, watching the puck into the corner. And by vividly having these HD movies in your brain at full game speed, not slow motion, you're going to create an improvement in there. Why is this? The reason is your body creates neural pathways. And when you practice a skill over and over again, it becomes a brand new neural pathway, almost an automatic response. And when you work with it mentally, your body can't tell whether you're practicing it mentally or whether you're practicing it physically. How often should I work on mental rehearsal and some of these skills and tactical sessions using mental rehearsal? My advice would be same amount of time you practice it physically, I'd put time into it practicing it mentally. Now, as an athlete, when the season's going on, you can practice on the bus. If you can get yourself in a quiet place, you can practice in a hotel room. You can practice at the rink in the stands if you get there early. And I think you actually probably see NHL goalies doing that a lot when they're doing mental rehearsal. You know, the ones where they're sitting on the bench. And you've seen Holt be visualizing by the bench with his eyes darting around. He's doing a more live version of that, but he's mentally rehearsing what he's going to do in each of those situations. So it's something that you can do, in my estimation, about the same amount of time as you practice it physically if you want to master the skill. Everyone has an internal dialogue with themselves. Whether you're an athlete, human being, walking at the beach, walking in the mall, trying to fall asleep at night, you're always listening to that little voice in your head. By using positive self-talk, you can fool yourself into greatness. And of course, the opposite is true. If your head is filled full of negative self-talk, you can create a self-fulfilling prophecy where you maybe play poor because that's all you've been feeding into your mind. So I'm going to give you some examples of some positive self-talk. Here's some of the ones that I would have used back when I was playing pro. I'd have a list, say 3 to 5 long, and here's an example of some of the things I would put on it. I would say on my positive self-talk list, I'd say number 1, I always get off to a great start. Number 2, I always control my rebounds. Number 3, I'm a first save goalie. I always make the first save. Number 3, when the game's on the line, I'm going to make big saves. Hey, these fans are lucky to watch me play tonight. And if you've noticed, when I've done that, you want to be positive in the phrasing of the term. You want to write them down, keep the sheet handy, and refer to it many times a day. And by pumping yourself with that stuff over and over, as hokey as it sounds, it actually works. And it's also a good strategy to use if you notice you're having negative self-talk. Negative self-talk examples could be stuff like, oh God, we're playing Michigan State again, and you know what? I gave up 8 goals last time. I hope I don't do it again. And you're setting yourself up for self-fulfilling prophecy. We're going to likely end up giving up 8 again. So when you notice you're doing negative self-talk, it's important to replace those negative self-talk items with positive ones from your list. And you'll be surprised how often positive self-talk will carry over and make your performance great. How does positive self-talk work? Well, your brain is actually binary. And what I mean by that is you can't have negative self-talk going on if your brain is currently in positive self-talk. So for instance, if you're getting nervous before a game, you're getting wound up, you're feeling anxious, your anxiety level's off the charts, if you switch, notice it, and revert into positive self-talk, because it's binary, you can't be having negative thoughts, you can't be having nervousness. So a good key to overcoming nervousness is to have good positive self-talk habits and recognizing the first time you start to experience doubt and you start giving yourself messages. I don't need to tell you what's going to happen. If you keep telling yourself, oh my God, I gave up 8 goals last time I played. If I go back in there again today, I'm going to give up another 8 goals. I better not give up my parents here. If I give up 8 goals, you know what's going to happen. If you keep saying that to yourself over and over again, that's going to be the result of what happens. And the alternative is true too. If you can fill yourself with some positive self-talk, you're going to talk yourself into greatness. I heavily relied on positive self-talk when I was playing professional hockey. I lived and died by it. I don't think I was the most gifted physical athlete, but I got myself convinced mentally that I was the best goalie that ever walked the planet. Obviously that wasn't the case, but going into a game with that mindset is going to be a much better chance of success if that's how you're thinking. And one thing I used to do is I'd piece together old VHS tapes, highlight clips of me playing, and I'd put those little highlight packages back to back, save, and keep the audio in there. Save by McKeegan, what a save, the save of the game. And what I would do is I get probably 30 minutes of that tape compiled after a period of time. get the favorite tunes I love, just crank and blow my head off before I went to the rink to play a game. And I'd watch that 30-minute highlight pack of how awesome I was. And I'd walk into that arena like I was God's gift. How lucky people are to watch me. That wasn't the reality of it. I was just a struggling minor league goalie. But I had lots of success and eventually made it up to the NHL because I was always going into my professional performances on a high, thinking I was going to play well and following through with it in a positive, self-fulfilling prophecy. What is intelligent observation? It's important for you to find somebody that does the skills and the game situations that you want to do better at a high level. And then basically what you're going to do is study and observe everything that they do and how it goes into it. I'm reminded when I was a kid playing minor hockey in Strathroy, we had a great coach named Pat Stapleton. Pat Stapleton was a member of the 72 Canada team, you know, the one where Paul Henderson scored the most famous goal in Canada hockey history. We were very fortunate to have Pat Stapleton coaching us as kids, and he'd always say, study success. Find somebody that does what you do successfully and study everything about them. And that's the key to intelligent observation. Search out people that are doing something that you want to be able to do, find out what they do, find out the inputs that go into it, find out how they approach the skill, the situation, and study. You need to be a student. Do pro athletes work on this mental rehearsal, this positive self-talk? Of course they do. There's some very famous examples. Jack Nicklaus was probably one of the most famous golfing examples of a guy that relied upon skill rehearsal, mental visualization, and the whole mental imagery part of the game. He might be 100 yards out over water needing to take a shot, and as he stood back behind the ball, he'd run a little vivid mental movie in his brain, visualizing the swing, the ball flight, seeing where it landed on the green, and then watching the ball spin back where he needed it to. He did that every shot. One of the greatest golfers ever. Other athletes that are notable, of course, people like Michael Jordan, Wayne Gretzky. All these guys were super mental athletes. And in the reality of pro sports, if you don't have the mental edge, you're not going to have the physical edge.
Steve McKeegan, the Admirals netminder, looking on. It's Warren Reichel controlling to the near point for Cam Russell. Will he take the shot? Yes, he does. And the save made by McKeegan. He took that one up into Keith Moore, the public address announcer here at the Bradley. Away, coming in. A quick shot, save made by McKeegan on Owen Lassard. Lassard on a breakaway. And the big save there made by McKeegan. The box set. And it was laying loose in behind his net. That's a big save by McKeegan. He has shown himself very well here tonight in front of a fine crowd. Ford coming in, it is Eagles leaving it off for McNeil. McNeil couldn't pull the backhand off. Oh, that was hurt. Okay. If I need another 60, have one ready, will you? Okay. The near boards. It is Lefebvre and the post knock. Minute to go now in the opening period. The Admirals scored the first two goals. Gino Ojek, his third on the season, followed by Marie. Okay, thanks, Paul. McKinnis in the slot area. He'll take the shot. Kick save made by McKeegan. Bernie drops it off in the deep slot area. Coming in, McKinnis. McKinnis, a shot. Save made by McKeegan. A big save there by the Admirals netminder. Down Ian Kidd and a 2-on-1 developing. Jason Smart shot. Great save made by Steve McKeegan. Oh, that puck had goal written all over it, and moving quickly right to left in his crease area was Steve McKeegan. The game is still tied at 2. Over to Bernie shot. Beautiful. Stick save made by McKeegan. Back to SN and the Milwaukee Admirals. The 4 tickets will be under your name, Janet, at the Admirals will call window. For next Friday's game to get towards the goal line, McKeegan fell right on top of it. 7:46 remaining to go in regulation. Coming in, so ran 2. Shot save made by McKeegan. He got a piece of it. Otherwise, this game would be a 4-3 affair in favor of Albany. It's into an Albany chopper by the name of Henry, a quick wrist shot, save made by McKeegan. Talk Radio WISN. Could be, but still quick shot by McHugh. Save made. McHugh to recall. Walking to the line on the near boards for McHugh down the attacking zone. Coming in close, stand back in. Save made. Rebound shot. This will be all over the net. Getting a part of it was McKeegan going to the red line. Ciccone in across walking blue line near boards. McHugh is down. And the crease on the side of his goaltender. Now the puck out front. Flat with a shot. Save made.
A 7:30 face-off. Here's the official scoring. Gary Vaughn with a quick snapshot. About 20 feet out in front of goaltender Jimmy Waite, beating the Indianapolis netminder between the legs. Vaughn, his 9th goal in the season. It's right out in front. Shot saved made by McKeegan. By Desjardins, who was on the doorstep. Desjardins robbed by Steve McKeegan. Desjardins with his shot 5 feet out in front of goaltender Steve McKeegan. He was trying to go top shelf with it, and McKeegan got enough of it with the glove to set it over the crossbar. That was one magnificent save made by the Milwaukee goaltender Steve McKeegan.